Откако ги комплетираше средбите со државно-владиниот врв и политичките лидери, генералниот секретар на НАТО во интервју за 360 степени ги допрецизираше оценките и пораките.
Hello, Secretary General Vladimir Mirčevski. Nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you too.
Please.
Thank you.
Јенс Столтенберг е добро запознаен со прашањето за името уште пред да стане шеф на Алијансата. Во 2008-та како премиер ја предводеше норвешката делегација на самитот во Букурешт. Неговиот татко Торвалд Столтенберг како министер за надворешни работи на Норвешка во 93-та е дел од тимот со Лорд Овен кој требаше да дојде до решение зимето за 2 месеца.
Mr. Secretary General, thank you for this interview for 360 degrees. Today, again, you repeated that NATO doors remain open and that there is still place for flags of new member states in front of NATO headquarters in Brussels. Is there a time frame for Macedonia's accession into NATO?
There is no specific time frame, but what we see now is a new momentum, is a new commitment to try to find a solution and to enable your country to join NATO. We see a new momentum on the name issue. We see a commitment to implement reforms, and we also see that you improve your relationship with your neighbors, not least with a friendship agreement with Bulgaria. And all this together has created more optimism regarding the possibility of this country joining NATO.
Can we consider NATO summit in July as a deadline for extending invitation to Macedonia?
I will not call it a deadline, but I will call it a great opportunity. And in light of the fact that we now see renewed efforts to solve the name issue with the negotiations that started in New York with the UN negotiator, but also the recognition by NATO allies that you are making real progress on reforms, on the rule of law, on the freedom of media, on fighting corruption. This has created a new possibility, a new momentum, which we should try to seize and to make sure that leads to real decisions on the issue of membership.
Let's say if there is tomorrow a solution on the name issue, is there a consensus among all member states of NATO that Macedonia should be extended invitation at the very next meeting of the North Atlantic Council?
NATO allies have several times reiterated the decision we made back in 2008 that we agree to invite this nation to become a member of the alliance when there is, or if there is a solution to the name issue within a UN framework. And that decision stands. At the same time, there is a lot of focus on reforms because NATO is based on some core values on the rule of law, democracy, individual liberty. And these values, of course, are important also for any country which is considering to join the alliance. But again, we are impressed by the commitment, by the progress you are making, and we welcome the strong enthusiasm we see and the drive we see in this country to move forward on the path towards membership, and NATO supports you in those efforts.
Today you used positive wording on the internal developments in the last period in the country. Do you really see progress, or is this just a rhetoric on the behalf of the government?
No, we see progress. A year ago, we saw deep political crisis. We saw violence in the parliament, and that shocked all of us, all allies, and everyone in the alliance, in all capitals, were shocked about the pictures we saw from the parliament. And since then, you have been able to stabilize, you have been able to solve the political crisis, and we see progress both on reform, but also, for instance, in improving relationships or securing good neighborly relationships with your neighbors. And therefore welcome also the fact that you have ratified and agreed the friendship agreement with Bulgaria. So this is real, this is substance, and of course NATO is there to encourage you to continue and therefore we commend you when you are making progress.
Did you hear any preliminary reactions from your Macedonian counterparts concerning latest Matthew Nimitz name proposal?
Well, it was discussed during my meetings with the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister and the Defense Minister and other leaders I met. Also, I met with the Parliament. I addressed the Parliament and also met with the opposition in the Parliament. But it will be wrong if I start to go into the concrete proposals and the framework and the modalities for a solution, because this is not for NATO to solve. This is for you to solve within a UN-led process.
You sent a message in your parliamentary speech to the opposition. What did you hear from the new leader of VMRO Depomane on their future involvement in the processes? We know that the party is boycotting the parliamentary session due to the fact that 6 of their MPs are detained because of their involvement in the events from 27th of April last year.
Well, I think that the leader of the opposition can speak for himself, and I cannot be his spokesperson, but my impression was that the party was interested in being part of the process, being consulted on the name issue. And of course, he also raised the issue of the 6 MPs which are now detained. It is not for NATO to go into that kind of specific issues because we cannot sit in Brussels and solve those issues and decide which side we are on. I relate to the whole of this nation, to the whole political spectrum. I welcome, of course, that I was able to meet the government, different ministries, but also the fact that I was able to address the whole parliament, and not least I asked for meetings with the opposition, just to underline the message that NATO is there working with all parties and the whole political spectrum of this nation. Our concern and our focus is not on the specific events, but it is on the need to establish institutions and the rule of law and the checks and the balances, which make sure that if the law is violated, those responsible are prosecuted in a correct way based on the rule of law.
Can Russia's stronger presence in the Balkans be a trigger to accelerate Macedonia's integration into NATO or an obstacle for the integration?
My message is that Russia has no right, no mandate to try to interfere in the domestic processes. So whether a nation would like to join NATO or not is up to the nation to decide. No one else has the right to interfere in such a process. That has been NATO's message for all aspirant countries. So we respect the nation if the nation decides not to apply for membership. We have excellent relationship with neutral countries like Sweden, Finland, Austria, Switzerland in Europe. We also have a very good partnership with Serbia. These are countries that for different reasons have decided not to apply for membership in NATO. We totally respect that. But of course we also respect when sovereign nations based on democratic decisions, as this country, decide to apply for membership. We sit down, we look into the possibilities for membership, and no one else than the applicant country and the 29 allies have the right to decide on the question of membership. We have seen some Russians, some reports about Russian attempts to interfere in processes, domestic politics in this region. We saw it, for instance, in Montenegro, where there have been reports about interference from Russia, and this just underlines the importance of increasing resilience and avoiding that kind of interference.
Do you see stability risk for the region after latest developments in Kosovo, and is this an argument plus for Macedonia's integration into the alliance as soon as possible?
Well, I am in favor of supporting your nation as much as possible on your path towards Euro-Atlantic integration, including supporting your efforts to join NATO. I have been in favor of that since 2008, when I participated at the NATO summit. So there is broad support in NATO for your efforts, and we have reiterated that again and again, and we have a partnership program, we have NATO presence in Skopje, we help you with reforms, we support you in different ways to enable you to join the alliance. But as has been stated since 2008, also for nearly 8 years, the name issue has to be resolved. So that is the main obstacle.
Secretary General, thank you very much.
Thank you.